Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. It is
Woo!
Thursday night, and that means bracket rundown night.
Yes,
Uh,
it does.
at least during the January and February, it means that.
Yeah,
I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. We got a full panel of experts and a puppet with us tonight.
I'm an expert. I'm an expert.
To my sides, up here, John Titel, one of the best selection committee guessing experts in the world. David Griggs, the puppet, one of the worst selection committee guessing experts in the world.
What?
So, uh,
Well, the committee's wrong. I'm right.
Down below me, Mike Chaw's back with us. Mike, first time we've seen you all season. Great to see you again. To his
Glad to be
side,
back.
we got David Dorman and Joby Fortson. Joby, the creator of the best computer-based selection committee guessing metric in the world. Uh, we don't have the worst computer guessing metric in the world. That would probably just have, 68 copies of SWAC teams in it or something.
Yeah.
No, you go to our friend's page that has the old RPI. That would be the worst.
The RPI is pretty bad. I like to look at the old RPI every now and then. Good for Lord Nolan still does calculate that sometimes.
Who was it that came up with RPI really poor indicator? Was that one of
Really, really poor indicator. That's about it. Let's go ahead and pull up the screen here. And I figure, we did this Monday nights. Why don't we start doing this on Thursday nights also? Why don't we start with a real quick blind resume tonight? Because we love doing blind resumes, do we not? Maybe we don't.
Yeah.
I thought we'd start with a blind resume. And here we have a pair of teams that are not, neither one is the team that we did on Monday, because one of them looks a little bit similar. But team on the left, team on the right. And the question that I have is, which team, just looking at these without knowing the team names, do you think has a better resume right now, or do you think they're dead even? Dorman, what do you think? Let me start with you.
I think Griggs likes the team on the left because it says road in the top left.
Griggs likes the team. What do you like though?
I like the. I'm on the team on the left too.
That's
I like
UAB.
the road.
Well, Griggs just ruined the whole damn thing here.
That's not who I thought it was.
Well,
but
yeah.
I do like the team on the left. The two road wins, tier 1 road wins, tier 2 road win, one bad loss on the road in a tier 3. I'll take the team on the left.
Titel, now that Griggs ruined who the team on the left is, do you like them better than this mystery team on the right, though? At least.
Yes, for a couple of reasons. One, the non-conference strength of schedule on the right is atrocious. Number two, the team on the right is a bit of a home court hero, as they are 1-4 on the road and 14-1 away from the road.
It's kind of funny because I think the team is the right is a team that when we're done today, you all are going to have ranked higher than the team on the left.
The reason why is because look at the tier 1 wins, 8-23 versus North Texas and St. Louis. Sorry, it doesn't matter.
Those are
Not
home
all
wins.
tier 1 wins are the same.
I gotta say,
whoever they are, and it turns out it's Purdue and Ohio State, is better than road wins against North Texas, who will not be sniffing the tournament, and St. Louis, who is lucky to be named in a first 4 out or first 8 out scenario.
Those are road wins, and I don't know. Not all of us have the team on the right ahead of the team on the left, Chad, because some of us like road wins.
Okay, well, Titel, were you surprised that it was Indiana coming up on the right here?
Yes, and I think this is another great job by Chad. I think that the X factor for the Hoosiers is that, number one, as you see with the schedules, their net is only going to go up while UAB's is probably going to go down. Yeah. Number two, I believe that many of the Hoosiers' losses, like at least 3 of them, were without Galloway. And now that he's back, hopefully that's something that the committee will factor in.
I think that is a good point. I think at the end of the day, at the end of the day, Indiana will be above UAB, but it's just an interesting exercise at this point, I think. But let me go over what we're actually going to do today. That's what we're going to deal with this giant blank screen here. We are going to be mimicking what the selection committee does. We're going to be doing it in about an hour as opposed to a week. What we're going to do is build for you a 1 through 68 seed list. After we are done, once we have the 68 teams that are going to make the field in order 1 through 68, we're going to bracket them up. You can look down below to see that. If you look right now, you cheated, you ruined the show. But I'm going to go to each of our experts here. Go.
Well, what we're going to do, we're just going to bracket my seed list because it's what?
We are going to. I'm going to call one of our experts, each of our experts, one time to give me their top 4 teams that we have not yet put in. We'll then debate those 4 teams, one seed line at a time, If we all agree, or if there's some type of consensus, we'll make the adjustments. We'll move on. If there is no consensus and we're all over the place, in order to keep the show going, I'm going to be a tiebreaker, and I'm just going to cast a vote and make a decision. I guess we're going to start in the one line with the top 4 teams in the nation. You'll see some metrics populate, including teams' net ratings, teams' strength of schedule ratings, teams' KenPom ratings, the JNG ratings, Joby's ratings. OAR is kind of an average of all rankings, a little thing that we developed here as well. But Mike, I'm going to give you the honor, since it's your first time on the show this season, of telling us who the top 4 teams in the nation are right now.
Okay, hang on here.
If you got that C list ready.
Yep. Okay, Baylor.
Baylor, number 1. Okay.
Good decision.
Okay, Auburn,
All right.
Gonzaga, and Kansas.
Gonzaga and Kansas. I don't know that there's going to be as much debate as there was the past couple of weeks of the show about these 4 teams. I would note that on the 1 and the 2 seed line, the order of the teams is pretty important because it determines what regions you go to. It becomes less important, I think, as we go down. The real committee, I think, debates the order a lot more than we probably will in this show. But Joby, what do you think? Baylor, Auburn, Gonzaga, Kansas.
Yeah, and those are my 4. I would actually have Auburn their number 1 overall seed still, but I can't disagree.
All right, Joby, you're breaking up a little bit. Maybe we could fix up that connection. But I think you said that your only concern would be switching Auburn and Baylor. Title, what do you think? Is this the 4 teams? Did Mike get it right? Or is Joby right that we should maybe switch 2 teams around?
Mike did get him right. As much as I'd love my Wildcats to be here, they lost by double digits to the Bruins, so hell no. As far as the order, I mean, Auburn has 1 loss by single digits on a neutral site to a good UConn team, so you could certainly make the argument for them as the first overall, but I'm not going to lose sleep about putting in the defending champs. And then I think that Gonzaga and Kansas seems like a good order, so I don't have much of a veto except maybe switch Auburn and Baylor.
Yeah, I think that's sound. Well, go one more opinion here. With a big panel tonight, we may not be able to get everybody on every line, but Dorman, you there also? Just switch Auburn and Baylor. Otherwise, agree with Mike.
I'm with Mike. I got the same exact 4. I also had Auburn ahead of Baylor.
All right, Mike. Well, I think we're gonna do one little switch on you. Otherwise, I think we got it. But
Mike, you were right. They got it wrong. Don't worry. Like Baylor's the better team.
I think Baylor may be the better team. I was just showing the team sheets there for those 2 teams. But
Yeah,
you gotta look at Auburn with all they do at the quad 1. But we'll find out a little bit more. Auburn in the SEC Big Challenge just has a home game against Oklahoma. Baylor a road trip to Alabama. Even if they both win, that may be enough to jump Baylor over Auburn, honestly.
Yeah.
But Griggs, I'm going to let you take the 2 line.
Okay, I'm going to start with a team that I actually had ahead of Gonzaga as my 4th number 1, and that's Duke. Kind of, I like them way up here. UCLA, especially after last night, and they also have a win over Villanova. I just think their top profile tops out really high. Michigan State, I know that this is really high for Sparty, but I'm really big on them, and I had them ahead actually of Wisconsin, who was my number 8.
Okay, let's pull up this Michigan State profile. Let me start with you on this. Michigan State as a 2 seed right now. Are you there with Griggs on a team that?
This is the correct team.
You'll
see why here in a second.
That has 2 very recent losses, including one just 2 nights ago.
I think that tier 3 loss, I know it was by 2 points, and I know that like the other 3 losses are fantastic and they got plenty of meat on the tier 1 bone, but I just think that there's some other teams we could put ahead of them. They're certainly in the discussion, but I mean, I love Villanova. I saw them in person, destroyed the Georgetown Hoyas, although who hasn't, and Purdue's playing as we speak, and Houston like can't lose. So like, I think there's a lot of teams we can throw in the 2 line.
Okay, let's
Michigan State has the okay, yeah. Michigan State
under consideration. Go ahead, Griggs.
Well, they have the 2 wins against likely protected seeds. I know we haven't filled it out yet away from home, and that's just what jumped out at me. That's excellent, really.
This was our good friend Kyle Lamb's old theory. Everyone gets to ignore 1 loss. And Griggs is obviously already applying it. You just get to ignore that Northwestern game,
I'm not
apparently.
ignoring it, but I just
Yeah, you
I just
are.
think wins against Connecticut and Wisconsin away from home are really, really good. Does anybody else have 2 wins away from home against protected seeds that we haven't put in yet?
Joby, do you think Michigan State's here, or where would you go for example, a team like Purdue with a couple of with 2 wins away from home against the tier 1A teams, among
No,
others?
protected seeds.
I am Purdue, not Purdue. So I would go Purdue over Michigan State right here in this spot. But certainly the reasoning of Griggs for once isn't way off. It's just, man, that Northwestern loss is ugly. And they did lose to Illinois in a remarkable fashion. Yeah, having made the amazing comeback, get to the line. You miss the first one. Okay, so now you have to miss the second one. You're down 2. And he doesn't even try to miss it. He just swishes it right down the middle. Awful. Especially since a particular people in the desert had a 1.5 points.
Mike, does Wisconsin belong on this line, or should we look at one of these other teams we put under consideration, or somebody else entirely?
I'd say for now, yes. I mean, I had Wisconsin as the last team in the 2 seed line, but
Okay, that's
but you
fair.
can but you can make a case for Michigan State because they beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin. You can make a case for UCLA. They're they had a solid win against Arizona a couple nights ago.
Yeah, we got UCLA there at number 6 overall. So UCLA
Okay,
is
okay,
in
yeah.
there. Arizona is another team we did not mention, though. Dorman,
Yeah, Arizona, you can still make a case for them at number 2, although they're a little bit light in the quality wins.
Yeah,
but
Michigan State isn't. They actually have 2 wins against likely protected seeds away from
Okay,
home.
let's go to somebody else.
So something that nobody else really has.
Dorman, is this right? That Duke, UCLA, Purdue, Wisconsin to move on?
I'm good with it. Mine said Duke, Purdue, UCLA, Arizona, but I have no problem with Wisconsin. I'm not going to veto them.
Okay, then Titel, why don't I go back to you for a 3 line? We're moving pretty good so far. We do have 4 teams under consideration.
I think that even though there's some SEC teams that I'm sure when I get up here, I kind of like the 4 we got under consideration. As far as order, let's put the 2 Wildcats back to back with Villanova on top. And then to humor the puppet, let's put Michigan State ahead of Houston, please.
Houston on the 3 line. Joby, they don't have much in the top left corner, but on the other hand, this team just keeps crushing everybody they play. Is there a case for even higher than the 3 line?
No, that they need to develop. I mean, they're going to wind up where this is if they continue to win. They're going to wind up in 2 or 3 land. But they have to finish that way. They don't have the upper left. As a matter of fact, the next level down of those 3 teams, only one will probably be in our field. It's kind of a bereft resume. They're beating the hell. Are they merely in the American Athletic Conference, the Anthony Michael Hall King of the Dipshits? That's what I worry about for Houston. I don't have Houston on the 3 line. I do have them on the 4, but I'm going way off script on this one. The Providence Friars.
Yes, thank you. I was going to say somebody better mention them for this line.
Look at the resume, especially after the win last night. That was a key win over the Musketeers. That is a crucial element to why I am high on them. Man, they aren't giving up. They just keep winning. I mean, talk about, this is the Terminator team. It just keeps coming and coming. You think you've stopped them, but you haven't. They just keep coming. It's pretty awesome watching them.
It's kind of funny when you look at the advanced metrics on both these teams. Providence, not very good at predictive, but their resume screams incredible. Kind of the reverse on Houston. The resume is not quite there, but the predictive metrics absolutely love this team. BPI of 2 overall for Houston, BPI of 39 for Providence. On the other hand, KPI of 5 for Providence and 16 for Houston. Dorman, what's your thoughts on this Houston Providence debate?
I had Houston as my final 3rd seed and Providence as my top 4 seed. I spent a lot of time looking exactly at this sheet that we all have in front of us. At the end of the day, I went with Houston, but I was very impressed last night. They went in there in a hostile environment in Xavier, and they came out victorious. There's a lot of wins in the top tier 1. I am not going to fight anyone that has Houston
Providence.
below Providence. Exactly. Thank you, David. Yes, it's so close.
I'm seeing a lot of love here with Providence over Houston to make that one change. Mike, real quick, Villanova, Arizona, Michigan State. Do you think those 3 are okay if we do pull Providence in here?
Yes, I think it's a rock solid set of teams there.
Awesome. Then Dorman, let me go to you here for the 4 line. I got Houston under consideration. I assume you want them here, but I'll let you tell me 4 teams.
Houston, please.
Houston is in.
Kentucky, please.
Okay.
Texas Tech
Yes.
Yes, great.
And, now you're
and
gonna do
Illinois,
it.
please.
He did not
Close.
go where we wanted him to.
No.
I think Chad and I were going to the same place.
Well, Griggs, let me tell you, were we going to the state of Wisconsin?
Yes, we were.
The Marquette Golden Eagles, maybe the hottest team in the nation. They have won only 7 in a row, but the teams that they've been beating in these 7 in a row, Griggs, go ahead and sell them over Illinois.
Well, the win at Villanova is remarkable. I know it was at home, but they did beat Illinois. That's it worth at least pointing out. K-State may be hovering around our bubble. I'll be curious to see where a lot of people had them. And then the win at Seton Hall, that's a road win against a protected seed, and one against another that's solidly in the field, and another against K-State that's on the bubble, as opposed to a win at Iowa.
Yeah, Titel, there's maybe an asterisk on the Illinois win, though, for Marquette. Is there not?
Yes, the asterisk is about 7 feet tall and 280 pounds. It's an enormous asterisk. Its name is Kofi Coburn, and he did not play, and they would not have lost by 1 point. Call me crazy.
That's a fair point.
Where would you go with this line then, Titel? Would you stick with the Dorman hat, or would you put Marquette or somebody else up here?
I kind of think Tennessee has to go under consideration, just because I understand we're getting one SEC team in Kentucky, but the Vols have looked really good. They got their doors blown off by Kentucky, so I understand that they shouldn't be above the Wildcats, but I think they should at least be under consideration here.
Okay, under consideration. Let me go one other you. Joby, want to ask you one more person here. Do we have this then with Illinois, or should we go Marquette?
A team that beat the Wildcats and split with Tennessee is LSU. And I kind of like Marquette more than all of these 4, just the depth. I mean, their resume in Wisconsin, ironically, since the 2 of them played, really remind me a lot of each other. And it's the type of resume I personally really like. So I would support Marquette. But man, look at that Tennessee, look at LSU. You know, you got to look at them in the exact same spot. Maybe they're both on the 5. But boy, if you didn't have Marquette, and you weren't a fan of Marquette because of the slow start and a little bit worse overall record, trying to cut on who would be there between LSU and Tennessee would be very difficult, and very deserving right here.
Mike, do you want to cast a tiebreaker vote here? Who we should have in this final spot of these teams? Tennessee, LSU, a Marquette, or an Illinois?
I'd have to pick LSU.
All right, let's take one quick look at LSU versus Marquette here, because and Titel, let me go back to you. Is LSU maybe the team if we take Illinois out?
2 weeks ago, yes, but as you can see in the middle column there, loss in January, loss in January, loss in January. Marquette only has the Creighton loss in January, so I'll go with the recency bias.
All right, I do think we have to move on. I think I've heard maybe 2 to maybe 3 liking Marquette a little better than everyone else, so. I will go ahead and let's go ahead and put Marquette in, leave Tennessee, LSU, Illinois under consideration, and Joby, go to you for the 5 line.
Well, we have 3 of them right there. I truly do agree with that. The last one for the line is the debate, and I think here, boy, it's really tough. There's so much temptation. I mean, when you look at I won't go with him, but I want to mention, boy, that Alabama resume makes you go, what in the world's going on? The yin and the yang from it is just the highs and the lows just hit you. Not ready for them in the 5 spot because of that. I'll go with the more steady Ohio State pick.
You went with a solid pick, I think, in Ohio State. Maybe almost the easy pick, but Griggs,
It's the easy pick.
Is there maybe somebody else? I think there's a couple teams that are close to this, but who would you have?
There's teams I like better. Can we go back to the board, please?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just losing track of Tennessee, Illinois. Okay, I like teams I like better than Ohio State include UConn and Iowa State.
Yes.
You mentioned the exact 2 teams I was thinking of as well. Which way would you go? Which could UConn or Iowa State, first of all?
Well, it's tough. I like UConn a little more, but I hate that Lee Del Vecchio is a fan, but still I like UConn a little more.
Dorman, I think you started to say something about UConn and Iowa State maybe coming in here over Ohio State.
I like UConn over Ohio State and Iowa State. Those 2 wins against Auburn or Marquette really popped to me. A loss to Michigan State, not going to hurt you. The tier 2 loss to Providence. I don't know how that's a tier 2, but I like UConn in this seed line.
Real quick, Tytel, would you be there also taking UConn over Ohio State and Iowa State?
Ohio State is currently leading a team on the road in conference play who's 11-5, and they're probably going to win. So I like the Buckeyes here.
All right, that's a fair point. Mike, UConn or Ohio State?
I agree with John Tytel said. I would have to pick Ohio State.
All right, let's go with Joby's pick.
They're beating Minnesota.
They are up.
Yeah,
they're up by 12 on Minnesota as we record this.
But I know, but Iowa State just won it. Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. Okay. Real quick. I did not mention this at the top of the show. We started recording this a little after 9 p.m. Eastern here on Thursday evening. So any game that goes final after we record this is really not going to be, other than the way we just considered the Ohio State game, really not going to be too considered here. There are some big games on the schedule late tonight, especially the West Coast Conference. A few Pac-12 teams. There's the big Purdue game. Purdue is up big in Iowa early, actually, but those games are not actually considered in for this. But Mike, let me go back to you for the next 4 teams as we head down to the 6th line. We do have Alabama, UConn, and Iowa State all under consideration, but you can give me any 4 teams you like.
Okay, I got to check my list. Make sure I don't pick a team that's been selected already. Has Xavier been picked yet?
No, they have not.
We're talking about the 6th line. I feel solid with Xavier.
Okay.
Then let's see, UConn, Iowa State. Okay.
And I don't know if you want to go Alabama yet or not, or you want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, let's go with Alabama.
All right. Let's go with Alabama. Griggs, what do you think?
Well, we've got UConn too low, and so that's one thing. That
was the side last line. Keep moving.
Yeah. Let's see. Xavier. Who do I? Okay, I have USC in here, but I can't figure out by who I have them in over.
Would it be Alabama you have them in over, or Xavier?
Yeah, I know. I go Iowa. This line for me is Iowa State, Alabama, USC, Xavier, and I'm losing track of who isn't in or who is in that I don't have in. I try and delete these as I go along, and it's hard to do without any arms.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me go to someone else. Then.
Ohio, you fought at Ohio State. Did you not have Ohio State this time?
I did not. Okay, that's the difference. But I do like USC more than Xavier.
Okay, Tytel, what do you think? Should USC be in here over one of these teams, possibly Alabama or Xavier, or one of the others?
I mean, if you are a recency bias fan, then Xavier is certainly having a rough little week, as you can see on their schedule there. Trojans, it'd be nice if they could get a little more in the tier 1. If they ever play Arizona, which hopefully will happen in February, they'll get that chance. But I also think that if we're going to not do Pac-12 pride, we can at least do a little West Coast pride, as St. Mary's and BYU are probably not this high, but
no,
I'm going to see some team get a little respect around this time.
Well, how about Colorado State?
Right.
Only
Yes.
one loss, sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you want to stay out west, Dorman, maybe instead of USC, Colorado State, only one loss. And if you just ignore the score in that loss, it's a very, very good profile, I think.
I love this Rams team. Uh, they've been solid all year. They had one rough game, like you said, in San Diego State. Most people besides Boise go into San Diego State and get drubbed. So I have Colorado State right at this line.
Okay. Would you knock out Xavier?
Yes, I would.
All right. I think the consensus seems to be knock out Xavier. Joey, would you agree? Let's throw Colorado State in as that fourth.
I don't know if the Musketeers are the ones. I mean, this is the recency bias, the Title. I don't want to get too caught up because, we are talking, as much as we've lauded Marquette, Xavier did beat them, as much as, we said Ohio State's steady, well, Xavier beat them. It's tough. I think Colorado State is certainly worthy of being discussed here, but I don't know if I make that full move, but I won't fight a consensus going.
It seems to be a little bit of love there. So
I'd like to point out, Chad, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Colorado State, I mean, it's a solid team, but I don't see a win against a team that would be in the upper half of the field.
I think that's a fair point. I think one of the things I look at is just only one loss.
Same with USC though.
Well, they didn't mess around when they lost.
USC is maybe the team.
I mean, that was a loss.
Right, but
USC did beat San Diego State, but that is the only win of a note for USC right now.
Yeah, so I think we're looking at very two similar profiles, and I like one loss tier 1 versus two losses tier 2. So,
Joby is right.
why don't we stick with this? I think we see not a good consensus, but a little bit of a consensus here at least. And Griggs, let me give you the 7 line here with Xavier and USC both under consideration.
Okay, let's get both of them in there. I know that this is high, but I given their net, but everything else on their resume looks really good to me. That's Creighton, and I've been dogging this team forever for not having done really anything, especially on the road. But last night they did quite a bit on the road. Texas,
You're going hook 'em.
Yeah,
you're going hook 'em after you spent the last month telling us how awful Texas is. You put them on the 7 line.
They won a road game at TCU emphatically, I might add.
Mike, what do you think of his 7 line?
That's looks good. I mean,
okay.
I would say I think Xavier's a little bit underseeded at 7. That's
right. Yeah, I think that was kind of the debate that we ended up. It was a real close call. I kind of cast a tiebreaker there, voted putting Colorado State over Xavier, but that's fair. But anyone else that he should have had on here that he didn't?
Oh wow, Texas at 7. I'm not too keen on Texas at 7.
They picked up a road.
I'd rather have a Seton Hall or Colorado State at that line.
Okay, Colorado State's already in.
Yeah, we got Colorado State in the
Colorado
line before.
I'm sorry, Seton Hall maybe.
Seton Hall's an interesting team, Title. A week ago, they would have been this high or high, this good or higher, but the loss at home to St. John's by 300 billion points, and then they didn't bother showing up really against Marquette either too very well. Team heading in the absolute wrong direction, I think.
True, but again, if the committee looks into it, the loss of Providence, no Samuel. The loss of Villanova, no Samuel. Bryce Aiken was not there for the St. John's game. Getting swept by Marquette is certainly not a bad thing this year. So a lot of the losses are explainable, at least to ease the pain, but there are 7 of them, and one of them is a 20 plus at tier 3. So I get it. I would still go with somebody like BYU, but Seton Hall does have a lot in the upper left if you like that.
Dorman, are we overlooking BYU at this point by putting Texas in?
Yes, we are. I like BYU on this seed line.
Oh, over Texas or over somebody else?
I have them over Creighton and Texas, Chet.
Okay, let's take a look at Joby real quick on maybe BYU versus Creighton.
Creighton does have a very key win over a team that we're considering right now named BYU.
So there's a tiebreaker.
I'm a camp BYU over Texas. I am of the camp BYU over Texas.
BYU over Texas. Title, is that maybe the move? We keep Xavier USC Crane, we put BYU in, drop Texas down a line.
No veto.
All right, then we got a line here.
Man,
BYU
why are you all
in,
beating up on Texas?
Texas down. Griggs
I'm not in
overseas
love with,
Texas.
as in love with TCU. TCU is a first four team in my book, so it's a good win, but it's not a resume changer to me.
It is in the sense that 1 is infinitely more than 0. And like I had them number 28.
So had they gone to Mississippi Valley and won, you would have had them up 5 more seed lines also.
Maybe 1 more.
Title, why don't you give me an 8 seed line here? 4 teams.
I like the 2 we have under consideration. As much as I want to go Iowa, they are currently down double digits at home to a great Purdue team, so I can't put them in here yet. I heard Loyola is not having the best day of their season today, so I'm going to go with the Hoosiers. And as much as I want to go Davidson, they couldn't get it done the other day, so I'm going to go with a team from Joby's favorite conference that seems to be beating everybody these days, Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, and you know,
this is a very underaccomplished team. I don't know why everybody likes them.
Dorman, do you think we got it right here, especially with this Indiana team that we just beat up on at the top of the show, getting in here with the 8 line?
I'm not going to knock Iowa as much as John will, because I think Purdue is really top of the country here. So I still have Iowa ahead of Wake Forest.
Joby, should Iowa be ahead of Wake?
What has Wake Forest done?
Nothing.
Well, let's get a couple profiles up here, and Joby, I kind of would ask, what has Iowa done as well when you look at these profiles? So
yeah, Iowa. The thing is, once again, we get sometimes too enamored with the tiers, because I'm sorry, a home win over Indiana is at least a victory. You know,
Indiana has one road win.
Yeah, over
beating Indiana at home is not an accomplishment. Now, winning at Minnesota
more of an accomplishment than beating Virginia Tech on the road. I'm sorry, it is.
No, it isn't. Virginia Tech's won more than 1 home game.
Yeah, Virginia Tech is not a good basketball team.
Yeah, but they've won more than 1 home game at home.
That is the most fraudulent net out there. I mean, it's one of them. It's sometimes you just got to look inside it. I actually think both these teams are not as worthy as Miami, and I'm dead serious on that.
No, I would agree with that. I don't have any of these teams. I don't even know if I have them in the field.
all right. Dorman, I think you're commenting on that. Miami over both these teams here. I'll put them up against Wake, for example. They've done something. They won a Duke, and they beat Wake head to head.
And they beat Virginia Tech and Castle like everybody else does.
Yes, Virginia Tech, who's won more than 1 game at home.
One at a time, Dorman.
I'm good with Miami here. The 2 Florida State losses really pop out to me, but they came back, one of them down 20 and almost had a shot, and did have a shot to win. But I can live with Miami on the seed line, no problem at all.
Patel, can you live with that? Throwing Miami there instead of Wake?
Do it.
Okay, you got a thumbs up too. Let's do that move. We'll go Seton Texas,
Better.
Indiana, Miami. Leave Iowa and Wake under consideration.
How is Indiana? I just want it known that I don't think I had Indiana in my field. They were on my board, but they were way down the list.
Well, Mike, does Indiana belong in here, or maybe we should have thrown Wake Forest in above that, but we just knocked that.
No, Wake. Indiana belongs ahead of Wake.
TCU ahead of Indiana. Not that Davidson and TCU are great, but there's got to be better resumes than Indiana at the 8 line.
What about the Sooners?
What about the Sooners?
One at West Virginia
the Racers,
last night.
and what about Davidson, and what about Boise? And
I think we're going to move on from this slide. How
about West Virginia?
Okay, well, let's go real quick here. Let's assume we got Miami up here, and we're looking at, does Indiana belong, or should we be putting in Wake Forest, Iowa, Oklahoma, or West Virginia? Real quick, I just want to throw each of you here. Where would you go between that group of teams? Titel?
Hoosiers.
Griggs?
Oklahoma.
Dorman?
Indiana.
Joby?
Indiana.
Okay, Mike,
What were the choices again? Is it Indiana? You said
Indiana, Iowa, Wake Forest, Oklahoma, West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Okay. Well, there were 3 votes for Indiana, so that's it.
My God,
it's decided.
That's the way it
Let's
goes.
keep going.
Oklahoma was really struggling till last night's victory. It was a good win, but till last night, they were almost out of my field.
Well, I would like to point out that during blind resumes, everyone had UAB ahead of Indiana.
Not me.
Not me either, Joey. So why is Indiana
8 in the 23? Not
okay,
me.
come on. We got to move on here. Dorman, give me 4 teams.
I have Wake Forest, Iowa, Boise.
I'm sorry, who came after Iowa?
Wake, Boise, Iowa.
Ooh.
And then I'll go West Virginia.
Wake Forest, Iowa, Boise State,
Boise,
and West Virginia. Okay, well, 3 of these teams are mentioned. One is a team we have not yet mentioned. That's Boise. Joby, are we too early on Boise State? They have one of the biggest winning streaks in the country.
I can't. I mean, you're dealing with choosing. Okay, so who would you choose over them? It's really tough because then you get into the whole. Okay, well, Boise versus San Diego State versus St. Mary's versus. It gets into a whole West Coast thing in a lot of ways. I can't really 100%. Boise's the hot name right now. They could, and just like Icarus, they might get too close to the sun and fall all the way out. But
I'm pointing where you should be looking.
In the way of Boise.
I'm pointing where you should be looking to the team right next to them, Griggs. What about the Sooners over Boise?
Yeah, I like them both on this line, but yeah, I mean, neutral versus Arkansas, road at West Virginia. You're getting to the point to where they top out pretty high, and when you look at their losses, none of them really have you holding your nose.
And when it comes to Boise, they lost a home game to California State University of Bakersfield.
Well, to be fair, it was only half a game. That was a halftime score that only counts for half a loss.
So, Dorman, this was your lineup. Mike, what do you think? Should we be pulling Boise or somebody else out and putting Oklahoma or somebody else in? I know Davidson was mentioned also.
Yeah, I mean, I like Boise State. I mean, the win at San Diego State certainly. If not for that, they shouldn't even be in the discussion. But I like Davidson over Boise State, to be honest.
Okay, Titel, what do you think we should do?
I liked this pick earlier this week, but after Davidson lost, I just can't do it. I think Loyola should go under consideration. They bounced back from the tough loss to a very good Missouri State team. But no, Boise is rolling, and they're 6-1 on the road. I think the team sheet said, which is amazing.
I've got Loyola on right now, and they're making my eyes hurt.
Okay, well, Boise's the team that's going in because they got the most love. And Joby, why don't you give me the 10 line? I think Loyola needs to get in soon here. Yeah,
we've been punishing Davidson, probably rightfully so, for the recent loss, but this is now time. We don't know the final score of Loyola Southern Illinois yet, so we can't count it. And if we don't count it, Loyola is worthy right here. But obviously that could change. Oklahoma, they did finally stop the skid. Dorman's right. They were on their way out. That's what it's so one win jumps you back just as one loss doesn't throw Davidson more than 2 up. One win doesn't move you more than 2 up in the terms of Oklahoma. And then it gets tough. And I'm going to go, I think I'll go St. Mary's here.
St. Mary's.
The Notre Dame win by St. Mary's is looking better and better, for instance. And the West Coast is a real solid conference this year.
Titel, what do you think? Is it time to get the Gales in? We hadn't mentioned them yet. Be our 3rd West Coast Conference team in so far.
They are, and the good thing is, I don't know what they're going to do against San Francisco tonight, but the 5 after that are very winnable, and then a brutal finish with Gonzaga twice and BYU once in the last 4 games.
How about a couple under the radar teams to look at?
Yes,
one being Murray State and the other being Iona.
Well,
and
Griggs,
UAB.
Well, I didn't have UAB quite here, but sure, throw them up there too.
Well, we all like the better than you all like the better than
Yeah,
Indiana.
we all like the better. Well, see, I didn't have Indiana this high, so like.
Griggs, Murray State, Iona, UAB. Would you put one of them on the 10 line over one of these four teams?
I would put Murray in over St. Mary's. Yes.
Mike, what do you think about that? Murray State versus St. Mary's.
St. Mary's, I don't see who they beaten. I mean, it can't.
Oregon,
the neutral floor win against Oregon was
Oregon and Notre Dame.
The Notre Dame win is
that we will at least discuss.
I have a feeling we will be mentioning Notre Dame before the show is over. So yes. I mean, other than
Murray State or St. Mary's
State beaten, because there's a question whether Belmont's in this field.
They're not in this field.
Yeah, I think that like while it isn't, I think the road wins at Belmont and Memphis, those were tough games to win. There's only one loss here where you're sort of holding your nose, and I just thought that they were competitive against Auburn. At the end of the day, I just think Murray State would beat St. Mary's. I realize that they're one of those teams that because of who they played in the conference they're in, it's really hard to look at their paper and see how good they are. But I just think that they are. I think it's hard to win at Belmont. They went there and blew them out. It's not particularly hard to win at Memphis these days, but they went there.
Greg, you know where else is hard to win? Utah State. Very hard to win at Utah State.
Yeah, and St. Mary's barely did it.
They did it.
But they did it. Yeah, I mean, there is an argument to be made for St. Mary's. I'm not going to say it's outrageous, but if you ask who I think is better, my preference is Murray.
I can make a better case for San Francisco over St. Mary's, to be honest.
Okay, let's take a real quick look at that. They do play tonight.
They do play. They're in the same conference. There'll be plenty of deciding factors before the end of the year.
So by the time most of you watch this, will be decided. But Mike, why don't you make the San Francisco case?
I think their quality wins are better. They have a neutral court win over UAB, a neutral court win over Davidson, and then I think that's better than what St. Mary's has.
And UAB is
St.
better
Mary's,
than Indiana.
They do have a win at Utah State. They have a neutral court win over Oregon and a neutral court win over Notre Dame. But I think I like San Francisco's resume a little bit better.
I think there's a case that they're real close. I guess we do have to make a decision here. I think I heard a little more love for St. Mary's or an under-the-radar team than anybody else, though. So I think, Joe, we're going to stick with your line for now. Although I do agree with Mike that San Fran really better be on this 11 line. And in fact, Mike, the 11 line is going to go to you. So I'm going to give you the right to put San Francisco right at the top of it if you want.
Okay, San Francisco. Has Iona been mentioned?
We can put
mentioned,
them in.
Not selected.
Nope.
So let's put San Francisco in, Iona. Murray State and UAB also under consideration, but not yet in.
Okay.
There's a couple teams out west that we have not yet mentioned either that probably should be close to this.
Yeah, Boise State should get some mention. San Diego State. I'm just trying to think. Okay.
We have Boise's in.
Boise's in, but San Diego State, if you want to put them in, definitely is a team that I think deserves
Wyoming
mention.
as well.
Yeah. San Diego State's fine.
Okay.
And
one more. Murray State, UAB under consideration, or you can go anywhere you want.
go with Murray State.
Okay. A little off the beaten path here. No power conference teams here on the 11 line. I'd love to see a line like that. Titel, how about that?
Oh, there's many lines like that. There's the 13, 14, 15. There's normally 3 or 4 lines like that.
How about on the 11 line, no power conference teams?
Yeah, okay, there you go.
I love it. I would have put Wyoming here had they not lost at Boise by 3 on Tuesday, which obviously is a very good loss these days. But no, I think this is a pretty good line. And I'm telling you, like, I think Murray's for real. I'm not saying they're going to end up like on the 8 line or anything, but like they are looking very good, and I'm very impressed.
Dorman, what do you think? Would you make any changes here, or did Mike?
I actually love Mike's line. The only team I would throw up for debate is Oregon here.
That was the other team out west that I was thinking.
Yeah,
yes, but to me, I like Mike's 11 line. If anyone's coming in, the Oregon.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we're going to go to the 12 line here. We'll go just 2 teams at a time. There's only 5 at-large bids. The counter has been fixed. It will be right this week, unlike last week. Griggs, why don't you give me 2 teams, Wyoming, Oregon, UAB under consideration, but you can go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm going with half those teams. I've got Oregon and Arkansas.
Oregon and Arkansas. Okay.
Yeah.
First time we've mentioned Arkansas. Joby, real quick, does Arkansas belong in the field here?
They have the nice win over LSU. That's about it. Of course, we're getting to the point where that's about it. Sometimes gets you in. There are other teams I'd go with here, but it's like you say, hey, I want that team with that one win. And, you can make the case for Arkansas as well in that particular case.
Yeah.
So I can't.
The other thing,
I'm not going to.
Yeah,
it's certainly not out of bounds.
Okay.
Yeah, and when you're comparing them to who else there is to compare it to, some of the tier 2 I thought was 12 seedish.
And we are in the first 4 here at this point. There are 3 more first 4 teams to go. Titel, why don't you give me at least 2 more first 4 teams, so we have 4 teams up to debate.
I think the 2 under consideration look pretty great. I want to put in Chattanooga, not so much for what they've done, but because I think they're going to end up winning like 27 games this year. But I think they're just below these guys.
Okay, I'll throw them under consideration here. In fact, I'm pretty certain they're going to make the field as a SoCon champion, but maybe not on the 12 line, maybe down to 13 or 14. But with Wyoming and UAB in, actually UAB would be an automatic qualifier, our first Conference USA team, and so we'd still have 2 at-large bids left. But before we go to those last 2 spots, Dorman, what do you think about Oregon, Arkansas, Wyoming, and UAB to start our 12 line?
Love it. Works.
It works. Mike, do you think it works?
Well, slim pickings. Yeah, I'd say it works.
Joby, why don't you give me 2 more teams? Let's finish off this field.
All right. 2 teams. One, I think, will probably be, because Griggs thinks the win over them is so valuable for Texas, I think TCU needs to be mentioned here. The last team is a team that I've mentioned a few times, and they're really starting to to grow on me, and that is the Stanford Cardinal.
Wow.
It's, they've got their big win, the big 3 in the Pac-12. They did that, and they've done some decent stuff out of conference, including beating fellow 12 seed Wyoming and fellow 12 seed Oregon. So you have 3 wins against the field. No one else can say that right now.
Yeah, how many does Florida State have?
3 wins against the field.
Florida State, you're true. Florida State is 2. Has the
okay, do they have 2?
So that's certainly worthy. But God, what an awful loss.
Hold on 1 second. Florida State has 3 wins against the field. They beat Miami twice, and they beat Duke.
And we have 3 against for Stanford. And you're right, the Washington loss equals out. But Florida State, what were they doing with Georgia Tech? I mean, Georgia Tech has not beaten a soul like inside the top 200 of the net all year. And somehow they beat Florida State, and badly.
It wasn't even a game.
It's recency bias. I actually like both these teams a little more than the Wyoming loss recently, to be honest. But I'm more Stanford than Florida State right now. But if Florida State makes it in some capacity, I'm not here to say no, just because the top is still very good for the Seminoles.
Okay, Titel. Is Stanford the team that should have in? Should it be Florida State? Should it be somebody else?
I think Stanford's a little too much of a home court hero for me. I like the Seminoles. I mean, when you're sweeping Miami and beating Duke, that's really putting a lot of good stuff together in Tier 1.
And it's kind of funny. When I was looking at the list this week, I kind of hit a drop off right around here, and there's not that many teams I thought were as close as there were last week. But Mike, what do you think? Is Stanford, Florida State, somebody else for our final spot here?
Florida State over Stanford. That's an easy one for me.
Yeah, and I'm thinking we're hearing some of that here. Dorman, do you have somebody else you want to throw in there maybe?
No, I have TCU ahead of these last few. I know they're right there, and we got them at 49, but I got TCU ahead of Stanford and Florida State.
Sure, there's one I want to get on the board.
In love with Wyoming. That's the one that I actually be fine with Florida State over Stanford, but Wyoming shouldn't be here over them because Stanford beat Wyoming and has beaten nobody. So,
Can we get one more on the board?
Well, let's quickly take a look at Wyoming first. Well, Griggs, if we were to take Wyoming out and leave Florida State in, who would be one more team for you?
Texas A&M.
Wow,
And
it's
a pastry cart. It is a pastry. It's they're not in my field, but they were on my board, and I just felt that they were worth a mention. There's a lot of good teams out there, and many of them don't have as many tier 4 wins as this Texas A&M team does.
Michigan, you could put Michigan under consideration. They're as good as A&M.
Let me throw 2 other teams up here. Michigan, maybe starting to make a comeback. I don't think they're there yet, but Notre Dame, are they suddenly under consideration at this point? They've now picked up, I believe, 3 wins in a row, and if they load here, 3 wins in a row, and they do have that Kentucky win.
We almost had that loss at Howard. I was at that game a couple weeks ago. It was by the hair of their chinny chin chin, as they say. Kentucky win is looking better by the day. BC lost by double digits, not looking great. Not a home court hero, as you see, 4-3. The strength of schedule is great. I think that there's a lot of merit to the argument for the Irish.
Would you put them in, or just close?
It's close. I still think that, have they played Florida State yet? I don't see it on theirs. So I think that if they went head to head, that they would lose that conference game to the Seminoles. They
play at Florida State towards the end of the season. However, the next 2 home games are Virginia and Duke at home. They go 2-0 in that, and then at Miami. We're definitely talking the Irish by next week.
They win 2 out of 3. They're probably in, to be very honest.
One more, Chad, just real quick. I would like to throw North Carolina up there just so we can remove them.
They are gone. But I do have a serious question, though. Anybody else that we think is close? I think
Hubert Davis, Coach of the Year.
Yeah. But let me, Mike, is there anybody else that you think is close, or maybe that is just missing out right now, other than maybe Stanford or Texas A&M and Notre Dame, who we've mentioned?
Not really. Okay. Yeah, Notre Dame should be considered, and
I would say here we mentioned Stanford already.
Michigan will be kind of on the periphery, to be
okay.
Yeah,
we'll throw Michigan there. Joby, anybody else that's close?
Well, I just want to say this kind of in the same jest that North Carolina mentioned. Say, what in the hell are you doing, Florida? What are you doing? You had it, and you blew it. In the Sylvester Stallone Copland land, you had your chance and you blew it. Oh my God, they'll get plenty more. Florida might be, we might be talking about it, but the missing of Castle and that's really hurting them bad.
Yeah, Griggs. After they win at Davidson last night, is VCU on it? Should VCU be on this board?
On the board, sure.
Okay. Anybody else you'd have on the board? That we haven't mentioned. That's okay if we don't. We don't have to go 9 deep.
Nobody else that we've really mentioned.
Yeah.
I would say the Bonnies, but no.
They suffered a bad loss yesterday.
Bonnies have the same issue Florida did. What are you doing? And a serious team that won't get opportunities, and will get one more and might need the auto, but Belmont is at least mentionable.
I think they're mentionable. I would argue maybe Mississippi State's also another team that's still in striking distance here.
Now Mississippi State should be the team that David Griggs really hates, because talk about
I refuse to put a team in the field that doesn't have at least one road win of any kind at this juncture in the year. They're not on the.
I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull up the 13 through 16 lines real quickly here. They're just going to populate. We've got Oakland, New Mexico State, Toledo over for Ohio after they beat Ohio head-to-head, Vermont and Chattanooga, South Dakota State, Wagner, Princeton, Weber State, Liberty, UNC Wilmington, App State, Cal State Fullerton, Winthrop, Norfolk State Southern, Colgate, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi.
Chad, I got a question.
Yep.
You just blew through those. Say I'm a viewer and I want to hear more about these teams. What can I do?
Go to another site.
What the hell is that supposed
I'm just joking. Go back to last night. We did the Under the Radar podcast. Do every Wednesday night. We love these conferences. Actually, we just don't have time to go through and sit here and debate whether I was right at having Chattanooga down in the 14 line with their loss at Western Carolina versus the red hot Vermont team that is looking absolutely amazing in the America East. But we did discuss all of that last night. On that note, though, what I want to do is leave this all up here and run through each of you for any other final thoughts you have on what we did, what you see here, anything else you want to discuss at all. Joby, why don't I start with you?
Well, let's just get back. This is the 3rd week in a row that what I look at, and I look in the playing games and the under consideration board, there is a to use the Three Amigos line, there is a plethora of Pac-12, the Pac-12 wannabes, the Oregons, the Stanfords, as well as ACC teams. It really will come down to, does an ACC team rise above by beating everybody else that's fighting for the spot? And for the Pac-12, will it be how much can Oregon, Stanford, who knows, Colorado, et cetera, can they beat the big three, so to speak, or at least big 2.5, because USC is more and more not looking like a big three. So it's going to be very interesting. The Pac-12 and the ACC, we will be discussing them in March for these final spots, teams from those conferences. I think very much so.
Just a quick note. We had that discussion about Loyola Chicago not looking that good. As we record this, the game went foul. They did find a way to win in Southern Illinois. So I think we were fair to them on the 10 line. Maybe we even underseed them by a line. But Dorman, let me go to you.
I'm gonna go with a get well soon to Mr. Dick Vitale. Everyone doesn't love his style on the air, and maybe people yell and he's got these lines. But if you've ever heard, if you think he's yelling about college basketball, you should hear him yell and raise dollars and money about children's cancer and what he's done off the court of college basketball, because of what his name does stand for in college basketball, is absolutely unbelievable. He has raised hundreds of millions of dollars personally and saving lives, and that matters way more than college basketball games. So someone using their voice to do so much good, and I just hope he gets well and he's back on the court calling games again next year. And thank you for what you've done for all these kids across the country.
Absolutely. I couldn't echo that more. Mike, your thoughts?
Dang, after what David Dorman said, it's hard to top that. But,
it is. Sorry about that.
I'm looking forward to, hopefully the tournament will be back to its normal format where you don't have to have all the games in one city, just, to have it back in its normal format, and hoping for, everybody to be, healthy and safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Couldn't agree with that more either. Titel. But you are on mute, Titel, so we gotta get your audio back on here.
Sorry about that. I have to run away real quick. So as far as my favorite thought on the bracket, I would say the 3-seed Arizona against the 14-seed Princeton would be one of the John Titel all-time classic "Who is he cheering for" games, because it will be heavily for the team in red and blue. As far as my final thought outside the bracket, the McDonald's All-American rosters were announced the other day. And for anybody worried that Duke was going to have a drop-off with the loss of Coach K to retirement this spring, I can assure you that you are horribly wrong, as he is bringing in not one, not two, but 3 McDonald's All-Americans for John Shire and Derek Lively III and Mark Mitchell and Derek Whitehead. Duke is going to be just fine in the post-Coach K era.
I think they will be. Greg, do you want to finish us off?
Yeah, in looking at it, it seems to me that this year there's more really good, really live wire under the radar teams. We've got several inside the bubble here with Loyola Chicago, although they're looking less and less spectacular as the season goes along. Iona really tough. I think that their metrics actually don't reflect how tough they are. We made that point on Under the Radar last night. UAB kind of sandwiched in between the first 4 there, technically inside the bubble, but practically right on it. I hope the real committee values them. But then, you've got Oakland, that 13 line. Holy crap, that's a strong line. These are supposed to be protected seeds. I'd almost rather play teams on the 11 line.
That's why when we see a lot more of these 12 seeds and 13 seeds winning games in the first round. I guess on that, and I'm going to pull this down here. And again, now if you did watch the whole podcast, you can go down below us, look at the final bracket, see if in fact we did end up with Arizona matched up with Princeton. Probably going to happen. I don't know. I know the guy that does the bracketing here.
Yeah.
But on behalf of John Titel and David Griggs up top here, Joby Forza right below me, Mike Cha and David Dorman to his sides, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back again next week with a bunch more podcasts. Talk to you again real soon.